Hello and welcome to our reflections on Tuesday, which is going to be the hottest day ever. Well, it's Monday at the moment and this is warm enough. I've got me cold Coke from the fridge, I've got the parasol, and I'm sitting in the garden and I'm still incredibly hot. It seems like we've got the wrong sort of heat, just as we have the wrong sort of snow in winter and we have the wrong sort of leaves in the autumn. Everything grinds to a halt. We don't seem to be able to cope with anything out of the normal run of things. Which brings me to the reading for today. It's one of my favourite bits of the New Testament. The start of Acts chapter 13. The situation has been that the church in Jerusalem has failed to grasp the whole idea of engaging with the Gentile mission. It's looked after itself. It's not gone to Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth as instructed by the Great Commission and by the instructions in Acts 1 verse 8, instead of which it's just done its own thing. And unfortunately, the role of converts and the advancement of the church's cause just dried up, and by about 140 AD there wasn't really a church in Jerusalem to speak of at all. In Antioch, though, it was a very different matter. They had gone out to the Greek-speaking people, and loads and loads of people had joined Christianity, become part of the church. And in Antioch itself, Saul, who was to be Paul, and Barnabas had stayed there a year and built up really a fantastic church with all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds. And Acts 13 lists some of them. There's Simeon, called Niger, which means that he was almost certainly black. There's Lucius of Cyrene from North Africa, probably an Arab. There's Manaen, who was linked with Herod the Tetrarch, probably influential in the high society of Judaism. And Saul and Barnabas, they were the listed teachers and prophets of that church. And they built it up, great things were happening, and they were worshipping in a fantastic way and fasting. It was church as it's meant to be, people earnest and zealous and eager. And then when they were worshipping one day, the Holy Spirit told the leadership that they should send Saul and Barnabas away to do the work that the Holy Spirit had for them. Of course, if they had stayed in Antioch, none of the Gentile mission that Saul particularly and Barnabas as well were responsible for in the next few years, spreading the gospel out across the known world in the Mediterranean environment. If they'd have stayed in Antioch, none of that would have happened. And whether the Antioch people realised that there was something much bigger than just this local successful cause or not, they prayed and then they laid hands on Saul and Barnabas and sent them away. It was a sending church, Antioch. It was a risk-taking church. It was part and parcel of being a vibrant and dynamic church where the Holy Spirit was in their midst and things were happening. But they had to do unconventional things, like giving away their best resource so that it could happen somewhere else. It wasn't conventional in any way. They had to be adaptable to the changing situations that came. They didn't grind to a halt like we are doing today because the circumstances were different, because they weren't accustomed to different scenarios. They had to dance lightly on their feet. And I wonder, as we think about our own church experience, which isn't particularly of diverse groupings, but mainly people of the same sort, and isn't specifically rampant with the Spirit's outbursts of excitedness, unlike Antioch. I wonder whether it's because we're too set in our ways, unable to adapt, and whether the Spirit is blowing elsewhere. Let's think and reflect as we go through this day of ridiculous heat, of everything grinding to a halt, as to whether the Spirit's got new things for us.